We always pass around just an attendance sheet. If it is your first time here, if you'd like to receive emails with reminders of programs that are coming up, just add your email and Leslie will add you to that list. So I'm going to start this and we'll just pass it around and then I'll get out of your way, Bob.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Hello everybody, thanks for coming out tonight. And some of you, I see a few familiar faces, quite a few, but some of you not so much. So I just give you a little background on myself. Our family has lived in Maynard for most of our lives since, I guess it was 77, 78 when we moved here from Sumner, and went away after college and ended up coming back home to my roots here, so I'm glad I did. But that was 94, that was a few years ago, so I've been back quite a few years. And then did one job for 17 years for a music distributor, servicing discount stores like Walmart, Kmart, Shopko, and then people stopped buying CDs. So I had to find a new career, did home health care for 3 years with oxygen, CPAPs, all that fun stuff. And then wanted to get back into sales, so answered an ad in the Weekly Shopper for this little dairy that I'd never heard of in my life, Country View Dairy. I was looking for someone to head up their marketing and sales. And that was 2013. It was actually, I think the first interview was December 12, but it's coming up on pretty close to 10 years. But wanted to talk tonight about the word culture. So there's several meanings to the word culture. One is agriculture around here, you might think of, because we're surrounded by it. A lot of people make their livings through it. And then there's culture as in a way of life, how we live, our religion, that sort of thing. And then the third meaning would be culture as we use it in the food science, in the yogurt business, what actually makes yogurt yogurt. So I like to cover those three things. Put together a little slideshow. First time with the slides, so bear with me a little bit here. Luckily, they've got some great equipment for me to use. So here's some pictures just to start off here, the story of Country View Dairy. We've got, anybody know what this tank over here would be used for in the creamery?
Pasteurizer.
Pasteurizer. You get the gold star. All right.
Thank you.
So that holds, okay, another question. How many gallons of milk, and it's taller than me, just to give you an idea, but do you think that holds?
400.
Ooh, you're pretty close. 300 gallons. So with milk, it's a little over 3,000 pounds. When I started, we had one, and now we have 2 tanks. So we're able to do 2 different batches at once. Here you see the yogurt going into the cup, and you'll notice it's like milk. It's still in its liquid state. So we're considered a cup set yogurt is the recipe that we use. This is our logo and pictures of the employees of the month there. Our cows, which are mostly Holsteins. Show of hands, how many people have actually been out to the creamery to visit the store? Oh, quite a few. All right, very good. It is open. We have some frequent flyers right in the front row here. It is open every day of the year, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we have a little store. It's on the honor system, which shocks, especially when people bring family from Chicago or some big city, even Des Moines. They're a little bit shocked that we're still using the honor system. But it works 99.9% of the time. We have had to add cameras a couple years ago when we were having some issues, but so those are a little deterrent now. But yeah, it is nice to just to be able to trust the public like that, and it does work. So we're grateful that people go along with that system and visit us. Somebody asked how many people come to the store a day, and it's probably between 50 and 100 people, just depending on the day. Some weekends we might have more than that, but definitely Friday, Saturday, Sunday, busiest days. And in the summer, the weather has a lot to do with it, since we sell frozen yogurt. It's the big draw for people coming out here. Let's get into talking about creameries. How many of you knew there was a creamery in Maynard a lot of years ago? I don't know when it stopped. Should have asked Michelle, probably. She probably would have known that.
You know, yeah.
But it was located down near the Volga River on this side. It looks like it's a brick structure, but I'm told they made butter. And what was the other product?
Cheese, a little bit of cheese.
They ended up doing cheese before they ended there. So Bob will, Elder, will give you a little information there. You can see the milk cans here. And believe it or not, today some of the Amish farmers still use milk cans, but this is how it was done back then. Eventually, they did get their own truck and got a little more modernized there. But that was 1912. If it was still here, I could just walk to work. I wouldn't have to drive 20 miles. So, definition of culture. Let's go talk about this definition, which would include your arts, beliefs, institutions, and population that are passed down from one generation to another. The way of life for an entire society includes codes of manners, dress, language, religion, rituals, and art. So a lot of people, and including myself when I started there, are curious about the Mennonite faith and religion. They see the women in dresses and the hair coverings and think they must be like Amish. And in many ways, they are. I want to just talk a little about that because I know we had another speaker last year speaking about life in the Amish and the Amish schools and that sort of thing. So there are some differences. The main difference is technology. Mennonites embrace technology. They drive cars, they have computers, their houses, they have electricity. You walk in their house and the one thing you'd see missing is a television, a radio, or pictures, family pictures. They don't do photographs, so they don't do post photography, which is similar to the Amish actually. But and their faith is extremely important to them, and they're a very tight-knit community. A lot of them have businesses where they employ each other, and in our case, it's a little different because we can't just sell to our little local community if we want to grow. We have to grow outward. But I did just want to talk a little about that. The women do wear dresses, and they make their own. They go to the 8th grade, and they have their own school, kind of over by Prairie View, and they're building their own church. They started 2 years ago, and not quite there, but spring, they plan to have that done. The Rapson family, who started this, moved to Iowa in 2002, so 20 years ago, so probably January. This farm along the highway had sat empty for a year or two. It was a Steinlocke farm before that. And so I think it was through the bank auction, something like that. Carolee always joked that it was Dave's dream because they were just renting a dairy farm in Michigan, and it was her nightmare because she had a bunch of little children at the time, and the house was a 100-year-old house that was falling down and needed a lot of work. So they kind of patched it up to make it work for a few years. And then the dairy had done well during those years. They were able to knock the house down and build that big house you see now. But then the recession hit shortly after that, 2008, 2009. And excuse me. So the recession hits. Lots of dairy farms went out of business right around that time. The price of milk went way down. It was one of the toughest agriculture businesses to be in. And those people, all farmers work hard, but dairy farmers, you can't get away from those cows. They have to be milked. In our case, it's 3 times a day. I looked up a statistic earlier today. Didn't have time to include it in the slideshow, but this is kind of the sad reality. In 1990, there were 6,080 dairy farms in Iowa. Doesn't seem like that long ago, 1990. 2004, there were 2,410 dairy farms. Today, 14, 18, 22 minus 4 is 18 years later. There's 1,700. So we go from 6,000 farms to 1,700 in just those short amount of years. But the number of cows remained about the same that are being milked in the state. So you know what that means. Bigger herds, bigger herds. Some of them in northwest Iowa, a lot of them are in the thousands, 3, 4, 5, 6,000. And at our farm, it's varied between 100 cows and right now we're milking 350, which to some smaller farmers seems like a lot. To bigger farmers, you know, it's not. But it's what works for them. If they get a full barn, and kind of got ahead of myself, but to go back to the story, they started. The recession hit, they figured out they wanted a legacy to leave for their children. They had 2 teenage boys at that time, 5 children altogether. We see the owner Dave here, one of our few pictures because they don't pose for photography. We had a bus tour come through, it was like a fall leaf thing, and they had a meal at our farm. Dave was saying a few words there. So he's the owner, this is his wife Carol Lee, the daughters Ambria, Ellie, and Courtney, and then their 2 sons, Jesse and Seth, in the back with their wives. So they wanted to leave a legacy. They didn't want to have a sale. They didn't want to go to town and get a job. They wanted to keep the dairy there. So traveling around the country trying to figure out what could they do with their milk. What are other farmers doing with their milk? They're making cheese, ice cream, butter, milk in glass bottles, or all kinds of different things happening. But at the time, a little company called Chobani, believe it or not, was getting started in 2009. Hard to believe that that's all the longer they've been around. But and then they're the reason, the big boom behind Greek yogurt. So yogurt was on the upswing as far as sales, and it's the most value-added dairy product. It only takes 1 pound of milk to make a pound of yogurt. Anybody know what the ratio on cheese is to make 1 pound of cheese? 10? Yeah, 10 pounds, that's right. 10 pounds milk to make a pound of cheese. So we could go through a lot more milk that way from the farm, but dollar for dollar you get more, I guess, value added through yogurt. So we started with yogurt, 2013. They had to build a plant from the ground up, built it about 50 feet away from the creamery, and had to get all the stainless steel, everything in place before you even know if it all works. It's been a lot of money, but worked with local economic development to kind of plan things out, got advice from the inspectors from the state of Iowa, Department of Ag. So they had a lot of great help along the way, and Dave's always said he would have never worked had he not got that help early on. So I think I skipped a slide in here. So culture, let's go back to the food science definition of culture. Basically, it's all about gut health, and by pasteurizing our milk, which legally in Iowa you have to do, we kill the bad bacteria. We introduce good bacteria in the yogurt making process, and that helps with digestion. So there's all kinds of different definitions of culture. As I mentioned before, these are the stars of the show, and if they call it red and white, looks brown and white to me, but black and white, they're Holstein. So that's mostly what we have on the farm. We do have some brown Jersey cows, and no, that's not where the chocolate milk comes from. But this was a neat shot someone did with a drone last year during 10th anniversary. Gives kind of an aerial, wish it was a little bigger to get the freestall barn, but just to give you a lay of the land here, the cows live in this large freestall barn over here, which you can't see. And then when they go to be milked, they come through here. They're milked, like I said, 3 times a day. And the days we make yogurt, we take the first milking, which is usually around 7,000 pounds, something like that. And it gets pumped over. You can barely see this pipeline here that it travels from the parlor to the creamery. This first little building, which you can kind of see a little better from overhead, was the original 40 by 40 structure. Second edition was over here, and that's my little office and my window there. Then we did an addition to the rear, and then one way back here, which you can't quite see. It actually wasn't finished in that picture a year ago, but it's our froyo production room. Family house is over here. We have the dry cows over here, and some bull calves in the back. And then another local tie is all of our calves are raised by a farmer, Sheldon Nichols, just not too far from here. The Maynard address up there, but he's got about 100 of our calves that he raises. Actually, he's been working at the creamery for us lately too. Okay, we went through a lot of this already about why we decided on making yogurt. We can skip over that one. Gotta get rid of that Chobani. And then how it started. We wouldn't have got started as well off as we did had we not met a fellow yogurt maker, Ron Parris, over in Sugar River Dairy in southern Wisconsin. We were sent to him by Hanson's Dairy, which is down by Cedar Falls, or Hudson, Iowa. They've been in the business a few more years than we have. They're doing on-farm production too. But in the beginning, just starting from scratch, we can't buy pallets of dry milk powder, pallets of sugar, and 20,000 cups of this and 20,000 of that. So they were nice enough to share the purchasing. We could just go, literally, I remember going, 7 o'clock at night with the Suburban to go get sugar and fruit and powder. And that helped us start out, because when you're that small, you can't just do all those big purchases at once. You just financially can't do it. They also started in local farmers markets. So we were up in Decorah, we did New Hampton, a little bit, right after I started, we did the downtown Cedar Rapids Farmers Market, which is a huge one. We did that a couple years. And they're fun. Oh, are they a lot of work, especially when you have a refrigerated product and you either got to keep a generator going or your refrigerated truck. And I remember one of the first couple times they went down to the farmers market, Cedar Rapids, they didn't have enough room for everyone in the front of the truck, so Ambria would put her winter coat and get in her sleeping bag, and she'd be in the back of the truck. She couldn't wait to get out of there by then. And there's no light or anything, but I'm sure she could tell stories. I had nightmares about that. But she was a trooper. We did sample at local stores. We had Hy-Vee's and Fairways and Quillen's, what was it, Moore's before that. So, and then I came along in February of 2013 to lead off their sales and marketing. I was the second hired employee that wasn't family, so I did come in early on. Now we've got 15 employees total just on the creamery side. And we went from 5,000 pounds a week when I started. I remember Dave telling me, if we could just get to 7,000 pounds, to 20,000, actually we did just under 30,000 pounds last week. So it has grown quite a bit. What dairy products do we make? Well, most people know we make traditional yogurt, we make Greek yogurt. We've had soft serve since 2013, the year it came on, so we're very well known for those products. And then about 3 years ago, we started doing milk for coffee shops in bags. When the pandemic hit, and then heavy cream was shortly after that, more for coffee shops. A gallon of cream is a lot of cream for most people, but pandemic came along and our soft serve stopped selling. Everybody had to shut their machines down. Everyone's afraid somebody's going to touch it and maybe get COVID. And so that business totally brakes were put on that. So within a couple days, when even Casey's was shutting their soft serve machine down, we knew we had to shut ours down. And we figured out, well, we didn't figure out, soft serve machine, throwing them in my little dorm freezer, which I just used for ice packs, brought that out into the store, started selling them that way. Well, they sold, and people were like, oh, this is so cool that we can get this. But it really wasn't a great product then, because you have ice crystals, and you got to freeze it the proper way with the proper equipment. And we did get some grant help along the way to make some of those investments early on, and have a whole line now of prepackaged frozen yogurt cups, which we've got in that front freezer in the front of the store, at least a dozen flavors all the time. And then we also still have the soft serve out there, which is a big draw to the farm. New products are whole milk, chocolate milk. I don't know if anyone heard anything about samples, but we do have some of that to try before you leave today. We actually entered it in the Iowa State Fair in August and placed first place among all the milk products that were entered into the contest with our chocolate whole milk. Product we are approved for last week is eggnog. And I know it's one of those, you either love it or you hate it. I happen to fall in the love it category, but it's so close and so new that I wasn't able to bring any tonight, unfortunately, but we've also got some yogurt to sample later on, so you can try some Greek yogurt, traditional yogurt, and some of our chocolate milk. Here's some more pictures of the plant. There's a picture of the pasteurizer, a cup getting filled, and this is our 3-lane filler. It's like a conveyor belt. So cups get dropped 3 rows at a time on this end, travels down the line. There's silver hoppers usually up here with milk, and it fills each cup with milk. It knows it meters and fills it exactly to 6 ounces. Comes over here, and out of one roll, the 3 lids or heat seal are cut out of there and kind of glued to the top. Comes off over here. There's a little laser printer that goes back and forth, kind of like your printer at home, and prints the date and expiration date and block code on there. And then this table is usually over here, and they're coming off on this end when it's running about 50 cups a minute. So there's usually 1 or 2 girls working on that end. And it's a little like Lucy at the chocolate factory. If you can't keep up. Luckily, our incubation room is right over here, so they can get them moved out of there pretty quickly. Over here, this is our cream tank. So when that milk comes over, we separate it from the big bulk tank where it's raw milk through this little deal valve separator. It's actually built in the 1950s. So back then, like when that Maynard Creamery was in business, every little town, even out in the country, you'd find creameries. But it's not like that today. So there aren't companies just catering to these small creameries. You usually have to have things custom made. But we were able to get this refurbished when we started. All of our products are considered minimally processed. So basically, that means we try to be as delicate and handle it as little as possible so you have the purest form of a dairy product. It's pasteurized. By law, it has to be pasteurized, but we pasteurize at the lowest legal temperature to preserve the nutrients in the milk. And we don't homogenize. So homogenation forces that cream through a tiny filter so it becomes airborne, and it's convenient because you don't have to shake your milk. But it also makes it harder to digest. There's lots of people with lactose issues these days. So we've been told over and over that people can handle our dairy products where they couldn't other bigger brand names. We don't advertise that way because people are very sensitive on one end or the other sometimes. So the main differences with what we're doing out there, it's made with a single source of milk, just 50 feet from where the cows are milked. The chocolate milk today that you'll sample was in the cows this morning. Well, it wasn't chocolate at that point. Non-homogenized, cup set, and when we incubate the yogurt in the incubation room, like our big oven, it goes up to 108 degrees and stays there for 6 hours. While it's in there, the cultures are multiplying like millions of times. It's thickening the yogurt, and the cream naturally rises to the top. So it's considered cream top yogurt. The milk is cream line milk. You'll notice a little line of cream at the top. We use simple ingredients, all natural flavors and colors. We don't want to have a bunch of words that you can't pronounce on there. We want to keep it as clean, pure, simple as possible. Natural has its own natural creaminess, and it's not overly sweet or sugary. Greek yogurt, it's all Greek to me. Well, every time I do a demo, people ask, what's Greek yogurt? What makes it Greek? No, it's not from Greece, but the whole way of making the yogurt by straining it in cheesecloth, like they used to do, to get the liquid whey out, would make it thicker and then more concentrated, and then your protein would go up. So Greek yogurt usually has double the protein of traditional yogurt. And like we've talked about Chobani already. It is thicker in texture. In our case, we don't strain the liquid whey out of there because there's health benefits to that whey. So we keep it in. We add a milk protein concentrate, which is just the powders of proteins of milk down into a powder. Thickens it up, hydrates it, and makes it thicker, and then boosts the protein. So mainly, people are looking for the protein in Greek yogurt. So, anybody heard of aronia berries in here? Anybody heard of chokeberries? They're the same thing. So they just undergone a makeover, so to speak. Unless it didn't sound so good. Chokeberry yogurt. So, but they discovered they're the highest antioxidant berry there is, and they're native to the Midwest and to Iowa. To start out, when we started making our aronia blackberry yogurt, we were sourcing them locally, and then this group of farmers sold their business to this one in Clear Lake, and then he decided he didn't really want to do that anymore, make a liquid concentrate like we were using. So now we're getting it from Chicago, a big company in Chicago. I wish we could find some more local. We were doing it locally before, but it's got a lot of good cancer-fighting properties, and anything you're looking for antioxidants. It's the power of 20 berries is in one of these little 6-ounce cups. If we just had aronia berries in there, you probably wouldn't eat it. It would not have won second place in the American Cheese Society because they are bitter. But we pair with the blackberry. Of course, you've got a little sugar in there to sweeten it up. So it does make a really unique combo. Where's our market? So we're in about 7 states in the upper Midwest. We have one little delivery truck, and it goes out 3 days a week. So we're not driving to all 7 states. We use distributors, and most of our yogurt is not sold in Iowa. It's sold in other states. We have a big market in Chicago, Milwaukee, Madison, the Twin Cities. We'd like to get more going in Iowa. We did just get signed up with Martin Brothers on some frozen yogurt cups in August, so that was exciting. So now we're part of the 88 purchasing group, which I learned a lot about this year. So we work with 10 different distributors, several restaurants. Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois are our main markets. 30 public schools, actually more than that now through Martin Brothers, not really sure exactly. Colleges are a big market for us. UNI is our only public college. We did win the bid there. And then Cornell College, University of Dubuque, Clark, Grinnell, and Luther. All of them big supporters of local food, wanting the students to know where the product comes from. So they help tell the story. Food miles, how far did this travel to get here? So they really care, and a lot of them are baking meals from scratch. This is one of the very few days Bob did the delivery route. I thought, oh, that looks like a photo op. That's the Fairway store in Waverly. We got our graphics done. This is probably version 17 of the graphics. It was a little grueling process coming up with that, but that's what we decided on. We wanted to try to represent all the different products. We have entered several contests, not just the Iowa State Fair. Each year we usually win something at the Iowa State Fair, but we won that. Second place in the American Cheese Society. We won at the U.S. Championship Cheese Contest, and even though it's cheese, it's a cultured dairy product, so there's always a category for us in there. And then just last week, or might have been the week before, they announced we won second place at the World Dairy Expo contest with our strawberry yogurt, which I brought some tonight for you guys to try. And that was one of the first years we won at the Iowa State Fair. I think I had a little more here back then. This is our store. It's open every day, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And there's a viewing window. You can see it there, and kind of a layout, but it's not a lot. It's not a huge store, but we have quite a variety. And we've got a couple soft serve machines that look familiar, guys. Okay. And over here we have a freezer, a couple of freezers now full of frozen yogurt. Other products like soy kennels that are made locally. Some soaps to actually use some of the whey from our yogurt. And the girls in the family make those. And some jams and granola, different things like that. We have tours, so we do quite a few school tours. We have homeschool tours, we have Red Hat Lady tours, we have Leaf Looker bus tours, and all kinds of tours. We had the Model A group come through this one summer. That was a lot of fun. And next, we're down to question time. So during the questions, Leslie and Carol will help pass out some samples. You have the 3 choices, and you can have some of each if you want. The whole milk chocolate milk, the strawberry yogurt, which is traditional style yogurt, and the Greek vanilla yogurt. Anybody?
Where do you get your other milk from?
Oh, that's a good question. So I didn't really cover that. Even though we're making 30,000, 20,000 pounds of yogurt, those cows are producing a lot more than that every week. So it's kind of the other way around. Where do we send the milk we don't use? Wapsie Valley Creamery in Independence, you ever go by the railroad tracks there? And then, that's where it goes. They make big blocks of cheese with it down there. I'm very fortunate because they know it's going to fluctuate how much milk they get every week. And usually they want to know pretty precisely how much they're going to get every week. So we're pretty grateful for that partnership there. Good question. Anybody else?
Shelf life, you mentioned
Shelf life.
early on, you gotta put an expiration
Within
date.
6 hours of getting home.
That's about how long, right?
Depends on the product, but the milk would be the shortest shelf life, 21 or 19 days in the milk. We do 21 on the chocolate milk, 25 on the soft serve. Then you get in the yogurt, which is 7 weeks. Greek whole milk yogurt, we do 8 weeks on. Frozen yogurt, that's the awesome thing about frozen yogurt. It has a year shelf life, just like ice cream, so some will put even longer than that. We had an exciting opportunity this year at the Iowa State Fair. Anybody, so I assume a lot of you have been to the Iowa State Fair. How many have went to see the butter cow, kind of stood in line? So this year, right across, kind of the other end of the building, but in the same building, there's an ice cream booth through American, Midwest Dairy Association. They switched it all over to our frozen yogurt this year and served it during the state fair. So that was a really neat, big kind of debut opportunity for the frozen yogurt. The Girl Scouts ran it as a fundraiser, so they got a lot of profits, and we sold and delivered the product. So that truck that you saw, every 2 days we were pulling up to the agriculture building there and unloading. Quick, gotta get out there before 8 o'clock, and 3-hour drive down there. So it was always early morning. I only had to do it once, but it was fun because then you just stay and enjoy the fair. So that was a really good experience. We'll see about next year. Hopefully we get to do it again. They said let's try out for trial basis the first year, and maybe you'll get to try to pick a unique flavor. Try to get fair food, top fair food of the year. They did. The Girl Scouts come up with a Minty Moo parfait, which had ice cream and layers of syrup and crunched thin mint Girl Scout cookies in there. It was in a soft serve. So they did that ice cream at the second booth, and the fairgrounds, they used our soft serve vanilla and did the same thing at the booth there in the ag building. So we did technically have a top 10 fair food this year. We'll see about next year.
How often do you change the soft serve?
Not often enough for some people, but it's changed for sure, usually on Thursdays before the weekend. And I used to post on our Facebook page when I changed it, but I haven't done that for a while.
How many different flavors of soft serve?
We have about 18 different flavors of soft serve. And it's a lot easier to manage the soft serve flavors than the frozen. You can just mix it up as you need it for soft serve, and frozen, you know, make it brands. But
Are the Fairway stores a distributor for you?
we direct deliver to Fairway. I have kind of a funny story about Fairway in the last week here. So our chocolate milk is a new product, and we really want to get it out there. So I rode along with our delivery guy last week, and or it was actually the Friday before, and was doing some sales calls, giving samples out. We've been in Fairways, not all of them, but we've been in 10 or 15 of them for years, and so thought it might be an easy sell to get the chocolate milk in there, but not quite the case, because milk's handled a little differently. There's bigger players like Anderson Erickson and Kemp's that have contracts, and so I was told, well, you just have to call. One of the managers in Waverly said, call the 800 number switchboard, and you have to go through corporate, which didn't sound very promising to me. So I did a little screenshot of their logo and put our chocolate milk in there, and did some artwork for a Facebook post and said, we need help, and please tell your store manager if you would like to buy our chocolate milk in there, tell them that, because they'll listen to you more than they listen to us. And I included a little link to the Fairway website, the contact us link. It's like, well, contact corporate directly. That was around 9 o'clock on Thursday night last week. And by 9 a.m. Friday, I had not a call, but an email saying that's probably not the best approach from corporate. So, but in the end, he said that they want to come visit our plant, and they would make a decision based on what they think. Because they have vendors come in who do salsa, and they'll go visit, and they're doing it in their garage, you know. He said, you never know what you'll find out there. So we'll see, fingers crossed. Maybe it did get their attention enough. Might not have been quite the right approach, but I guess we'll see. But any other questions? The chocolate milk? I never understood the concept of skim chocolate milk or 1% chocolate. I don't understand. But dairy fat's a good fat.
Are there any other yogurt manufacturers in Iowa?
So the biggest one would be Anderson Erickson. They do make a lot of yogurt in Des Moines there, right near the fairgrounds. And then Kelowna, how many of you are familiar with Kelowna Supernatural Products down in Kelowna? For the longest time they were making them at Westby, Wisconsin. So I would have to tell people when I would go to these stores and they have this local Iowa product that technically that was made in Wisconsin. But they have started moving production down there. But other than that, there's an on-farm down in Fairfield, really pretty small operation. But yeah, there's still not a lot of people doing it right in Iowa. Prairie Farms used to, but I think it's the Illinois plant now where they shifted it to.
Do your cows get to go outside? They got their picture taken outside, do they
I
really
know.
get to go outside?
Seasonally,
Okay.
but usually when they're dry, they have access to pasture. You want to keep them, you know, in Iowa, it'd be nice if we had the weather where they could graze on the grass naturally all year long, but it's just not very realistic up here. And so they're in a large freestall barn, they're able to wander around, socialize, play, lay down, bless you, as they please, and when they lay down, they're bedded in sand, so. And, yeah, so I guess that's, we work really closely with the nutritionist. I spend very little time in the barn, and I always get scared when people come to visit and they want all this information. I'm like, don't ask questions when I'm standing in the barn. I can answer the creamery questions, and very limited on the barn side, so I hope Dave or one of the boys are there usually. But,
Yeah, make sure you make the point of the gluten-free. That's a big thing. A lot of families have members that are
Mhm.
gluten-free anymore.
yes, all of our yogurt is gluten-free, and I know that's, so many people are right on the edge of anything gluten at all touches the tank or the pan. I know we had a relative over for Thanksgiving dinner, and we used the wrong pan, even though it was a gluten-free dessert, but you gotta be careful with that.
So Bob, do you get in on coming up with new ideas for new flavors, or, and do you need a
Yes,
taste
can you
tester up
tell?
there? I'm available.
Yeah, that is a fun part of the job. Part of it, sometimes it just keeps going and going, like, you gotta find a place to stop on refining some of these products, but you can go a little overboard on that, but yeah, we've come up, we're working on like the eggnog, we're tweaking that still, and new flavors for soft serving work. Right now, it's the flavor of the month. In the store, we call it a flavor of the month, and it has little mix-ins in it, like candy and granola. I don't know if you guys ever tried any of those, or
We did
Monster Cookie.
Are you gonna make that same one that you had in December last year?
The Peppermint Avalanche? Or?
Yes, that was good.
That was our first one 2 years ago, yeah. And it was so popular, we brought it back last year, we're gonna bring it back again this year.
Good.
So it has peppermint with crushed Oreos and chocolate syrup, and it has 0 calories. I can't say that. Yeah. So that's kind of our test market too, because that we found out how popular that was. Before we print 100,000 cups or whatever it is, we want to be sure it's one that's going to sell people like. Yeah.
Jeff Kennan still work with you?
Feed guy. Yeah. Yeah, he's
He's a connection to this.
okay. Sure.
Steve's son.
Okay. He lives up by like Cresco, or but yeah, we work with him pretty close. Good. It's really important on the diet for the cows. You want them to be healthy and happy, and then they'll give you the most milk. So the nutritionist is super important.
Well, back to the Mennonites, can you estimate how many families there are in the area?
Sure. So when David Carey moved here, they were like the pioneers. They were the first Mennonite family in the West Union Hawkeye area. And now there's 30 families, about 100 members to the church out there. They first started theirs up by Lime Springs. There's congregations. They would drive back and forth until they got their own church built out there. Or actually, they went into the old Catholic church in Hawkeye, and we'll soon be moving out of that. Anybody else?
So 200 rented acres and 50 acres that are part of the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Is that enough acreage to grow all of the hay and
They still
grain?
have to buy some. They eat a lot. 300 cows, 350 cows, a lot of, yeah. Yeah, that's one thing he wished, he didn't just inherit this from his dad and thousands of acres. It was, just starting out and that's a small, for our dairy farm, that's a very small 50 acres, and he got some adjacent land to rent. And Jesse, the oldest boy, they got smart, and instead of having farmers come in and pump out of their manure pit to go spread it on fields just so that it wouldn't overflow, just empty it, he invested in a pumper, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago of his own. Now he has his own pumping business, and gets paid to put that on Farmers Field instead of, you know, just hoping and waiting for another one to come help pump it out, but,
Use your natural resources.
that's right. Talk about recycling, right? Saw Kay out there one day on a motorcycle. Or a Judy, but that's probably a couple of years ago, but.
Where's your eggnog available?
Nowhere yet, but our labels are supposed to come probably early next week, and then, you know, locally Quillins, and I don't know, I guess we'll see about Fairway.
It's
and
really good. I brought some
Ladies.
home sample, and it's good.
Yeah, I can't wait to get it out there, but it took us a while to get approved by the state. Our FDA inspection comes around every 2 years, and it's a scary one, because she'll come in, sometimes she'll spend 2 days and has her flashlight looking in every pipe and every corner and every box, and but rather than go through that twice for a new product, we waited for her to come, and she approved it for us when she was there a couple weeks ago, so we're good to go. Just gotta get that label, but.
Well, it's a nice little place to visit,
Yeah.
and we love having your freezer available, and maybe snitch a lid on all of that stuff there while we're there.
Oh, yeah. We have a little sample cup, so unless they're all out then, but you can always try it. Try it before you buy it.
You're talking about the, how much time you put into the development of your logo. Do you do all of your label designs and things in-house, or do you work?
Kind of an interesting story. So the guy we still work with and we worked with from the very beginning is named Mauro Magellan, for a graphic artist. If anybody here heard of the Georgia Satellite rock band from the 1990s? Keep Your Hands to Yourself was the big hit. He's the drummer in that band, and he's our graphic artist. And super nice guy. He lives on a farm in southern Wisconsin. And he's real kind of a hippie guy, but super friendly. Still in a rock band, so we have to catch him. He goes to Europe on tour sometimes, and we have to try to catch him in the middle of the night. Yeah, he's getting ready to retire out of that, but yeah, he's been really good. And sometimes we'll submit one change. Okay, you know, move the strawberry down here, and he's a creative guy. He'll like come up with 5 changes. Wait, no more. Back up.
Does Melissa help with that part of it?
I don't know how many people know the Bagels by Fayette, Melissa and Dan. Melissa's been with us a year and a half, and she does our taste testing. You were talking about that. Quality control, she'll come in, we'll pull cups out of every batch that we make, and she'll taste them, test for texture, we test the pH, because the pH, the acidity has a big effect on how tart or that will taste, so. Yeah, that tough job is up to her every Tuesday, so.
It's another West Central grant.
Yes.
Dan Fagan.
Well, Dan is, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and she had, as an adult, 40-some-year-old adult, she had her tonsils out like three or 4 weeks ago, which after seeing what she went through, I don't think I ever want to do that. So it's much easier if you're a kid, but.
Yeah, it's much simpler when you're young.
Didn't impact your taste buds.
No, she came back last week. She survived. Anything else?
The fall thing you should tell them about,
The
the
fall?
apple cider, and
Oh,
that's worth going to.
yeah, so the Mennonites have a fundraiser for their school it's the 28th, Friday night at their school building there out near Prairie View on the highway. And they press apple cider the day before and have it like half-gallon jugs, lots of it. And then they just do free will donation. And